All right, so let's get into today's message. We are in a series called The Chosen. Are you guys enjoying this series so far? I am. We are talking about the disciples or the people that Jesus chose to ask them to follow him. And today we're going to get into my favorite character from the Chosen series as far as like the TV series itself. But first, I wanted to let you know about a story about an old lady that came into church. Don't be offended if I use the word the old and that somehow resonated with you. She's a seasoned believer. Dave's like, she was a seasoned believer, came into church one day for the first time and greeted the usher, and the usher said, "Hello, ma'am, where would you like to sit?" And she said, oh, that almost came out really wrong. She said, I want to sit in the front row. And he said, "Oh, ma'am, you don't want to do that. Our pastor is very boring. He will put you right to sleep." She said, "Do you know who I am?" He said, "No." She said, "I am his mother. I would like to sit in the front row." He hung his head in embarrassment. Finally, he looked up and said, "Do you know who I am?" She said, "No." He said, "Thank goodness," and ran away. That's as good as it gets this morning, so you're going to have to force some laughter. All right, so we're talking about my favorite character from the Chosen series. He's one that would never have imagined that a Jewish rabbi would call him chosen because of his profession. Does anybody have a guess as to who this could be? Matthew, that's right. Let's introduce ourselves to Matthew, or you might hear him called Levi. What? Yeah, Matthew, a.k.a. Levi. He is referred to as Levi in Mark and Luke, and he refers to himself as Matthew in the gospel bearing his name and the gospel of John. So Matthew or Levi, we don't know why for sure. Maybe he went by one of them when he was out in disguise because the Jews didn't like him, so maybe he went by two different names. Maybe he was from the tribe of Levi, and that's why they call him that. Maybe his real name was Levi and Jesus called him Matthew like he did with Simon Peter. Who knows? All we know is the same guy, two names in the four Gospels. Matthew was a tax collector. Everybody say, "Oh, that's a big problem," okay? Maybe not today, but in these times, huge problems. Tax collectors were contracted by the Roman Empire to collect taxes from the Jews, and he was working in Capernaum. They were known for lying about how much people owed and pocketing the difference. And so Matthew is a Jew who has chosen to work for the Romans, an oppressive, violent government that was over the Jews at the time. And so he's a Jew who has totally become a traitor and decided to work for Rome just to make a few good bucks. So he is chief of the sinners. Say sinner. Matthew is a sinner. You can pull up that next slide. Tax collectors were synonymous with sinners. You could say, if you wanted to use the word sinner, you could say sinner, or you could say tax collector. And if you don't believe me, we're going to look at a few verses that describe just how detested these people were. Look in Luke 18:10 and 11. Jesus is giving a parable, a story that teaches a lesson. And Jesus is teaching, he says, 2 men went up to the temple to pray, one a Pharisee and the other a tax collector. The Pharisee, standing by himself, prayed thus: "God, I thank you that I am not like other men, extortioners, unjust, adulterers, or even like this tax collector." And, you know, I'm picturing Jesus telling this parable, and Matthew's like right behind him. Like, seriously? Like, could you pick something else besides tax? I'm right here. But apparently Matthew wasn't too offended because we find him using this same terminology in his own gospel, Matthew 5:46. He's quoting Jesus saying, "For if you love those who love you, what reward do you have? Do not even the tax collectors do the same?" He was referring to himself. And again in Matthew 9:11 through 13, this is just after Matthew was called to follow Jesus. It says, when the Pharisees saw this, they said to his disciples, "Why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners?" And when Jesus heard it, he said, "Those who are well have no need of a physician, but those who are sick. Go and learn what this means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice. For I came not to call the righteous, but who? The sinners." So Jesus is eating with Matthew and the other tax collectors, and he literally is referring to them all as sinners. I came here for the sick. I came here for the tax collectors. I came here for these groups of sinners. So tax collectors were detested. They were chief of all the sinners, and yet Jesus calls Matthew. Next slide. Matthew was an eyewitness to Jesus' ministry. What's interesting is, he was obviously very good with numbers. So Jesus could have chosen him for this gift of being able to work really well with numbers and said, "You know what? We're going to put you in charge of our finances," right? But maybe the people would not have liked that. Don't put him in charge of the finances because he might steal the money. Let's give the job to Judas. That's a good idea. And some of you know how that turned out. But here's what I think is more likely. Jesus would not give that job to Matthew because that would insinuate that that's why he called him. That he called him simply because he was good with numbers. But he says, "You know what? I chose you not because you're good with numbers. I chose you despite the fact of what your job is. So I'm not calling you here just because you can be my treasurer. I'm calling you for a much different reason," which I think was a lot more valuable. Lastly, Matthew was an evangelist, somebody who spread the gospel. Matthew was one of the 4 writers of the Gospels. In the first 4 books of the New Testament are Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And a lot of people, if I were to ask some of you today, name the 12 disciples, some of you would just freeze, don't ask me to do that right now. And some of you would maybe you could just flow, all 12 by heart. And some of you, a large chunk of you, might say, "Well, I know Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John." And you would be wrong. Because those are not 4 eyewitnesses. It's Matthew and John were, but Mark and Luke were not. And so you would not be correct in saying Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Matthew was one of the gospel writers and one of the eyewitnesses. And so actually, Ken's and I made up a little song because I was trying to teach her the 12 disciples. I'm not going to make you get up here and sing it. Don't worry. But I was trying to teach her the 12 disciples, and I had a hard time myself, just, letting them fly. And I'm like, I have to sit and think about it. So we're like, well, it's easier to remember songs. And so do you guys want to see if I can remember? Do you want me to? Yes. You say, "Yes, we want to hear your beautiful angelic voice." That's what you were thinking. Okay, let's see if I can remember. 12 disciples, Peter, James, and John, Andrew, Philip, Bartholomew, Matthew, Thomas, James, Thaddeus, and Simon, and you can't forget about Judas. Yeah, there's the 12 disciples. So there's your 12 disciples, and Matthew is one of the 12. Matthew went from being a sinner to a saint. How did that happen? How did Jesus take this sinner and turn him into a saint? And what about the sinners in our life? What about those people that we'd rather not be associated with? Is there any hope for them? And if there is, what role do we play in their life? How many of you know some people are messy? Yes, people are messy. And some people are really messy, especially little people. Little people are really messy. Case in point, take a look at your screen. Some messy little people. Check these guys out. We've got the classic bathtub that's runneth over with bubbles, right? How many of you did that when you were little, or your kids have done that since? Y'all didn't live. Go home and fill that thing with bubble bath and watch it spill over. It's just glorious. And then we got these guys, and I have yet to, no, hold on, let's go back. We got to figure out what that is. I have no idea what was in the tub of white stuff, but it is no longer in that tub. There's not a bit. You think it's paint? You think it's paint? Oh, man. So these two are in major trouble. It's all over the floor, themselves, and the TV. All right, and then next we have some other painters. I love this little guy on the right. He's like, I am not satisfied with a piece of white paper. I think my brother is a much better canvas. And what's great is he's totally clean, which means his brother did not retaliate at all. And then the guys on the left, she's like, he's defenseless. He or she, I'm not sure which it is totally defenseless. I'm loving it. And then lastly, we got this sweet little guy who thought about doing the dishes, but decided instead he just wanted to pour chocolate everywhere. Now, how many of you, keep this one up on the screen, how many of you, when you see this picture, you're like, I can't wait to get in there and clean that. Like, I'm just so itching to clean that mess. Couple people. Now, how many of you, when you see this, you're like, no, thank you. Like, you're turning away. You want to avoid it. Don't get me anywhere. I don't even know where to start. Exactly. And that is the reaction that most of us have with messy people. We turn our eye, we close our eyes, we avoid it, we pretend like it's not there. Somebody else that's better than me at cleaning up messes is going to take care of that mess. I'm talking about that person that when you see their name come up on your phone, you cringe a little and you say something like, I don't have the energy for this right now. You say something like, I don't have time for this right now, and you decline. That's the messy person in your life. I'm talking about that person that looks different than you, or talks different than you, or lives different than you, or maybe that person that carries a cardboard sign that says anything helps. What do you do when you see them? Do you just like pretend like you can't see them? Do you like stay back at the light? Like, I'm keeping my safe distance, when really you're just trying not to get too close to that person? Or do you throw them a few bucks just to clear your conscience for the day? Some of you are like, yes, I do, just to clear my conscience. Because we don't want to deal with the true problem, the mess in their life. Now, I'm not saying you have to stop and evangelize to every homeless person you see. But I'm just saying every now and then, God allows a messy person into your life so that you can get in there with them. We were leaving Nationwide Arena one time, and if you've ever been to an event there at night, you see the same thing. There's cardboard signs everywhere. And this one man, I just couldn't shake it. It was freezing outside. And I'm freezing in my coat and everything, and he's out there with a sign. And I got in the car, and I was like, oh, it's so nice. And then I was like, oh. You could feel the Holy Spirit was like, do something. And I said, Justin, take a loop, come back for me. I'm going to go talk to him. And Justin by now is used to that kind of weird stuff. He's like, all right, I'll see you in a minute. And I go out, and I just sat there. I just perched myself up against the concrete wall, and I said, what's your name? And he told me his name. I said, what's your story? How'd you get here? Just talk to him like it was another person, another human that's been through stuff, just like me. And he told me about the career he used to have before he got homeless, and how he has a daughter who's 13, and what her name was, and that it's been a year since he's seen her because he wants to get his life right and get a home before he has to, show his face to her again, and how he can't wait to see his daughter. And I said, how do you survive out here? I'm freezing right now. How do you survive? And he told me the stories of how they go and they make camps, and they have, all the homeless people will camp out together if they can find a place where they can stay and set up different things. And then I said, what's that like? And he said, the hard part is when you hear about one of your friends passing away, and it happens all the time. And he just told me about time and time again how they would, so-and-so passed away from an overdose this morning, or so-and-so killed himself yesterday, or so, they bond with these other people that are homeless also, and then too often they hear about their deaths. And this is their life. This is his real life, a real person. And of course, I asked about his faith. He said, it could be better. And he believed in God, but he just has struggled. And so I got a chance to sit there in the cold and hold his hands and pray for his daughter, and pray for his faith, and pray for his future job, and of course throw him some money, but the money wasn't going to help him, And maybe that made no difference at all. I don't know. But it made a difference for me, because I felt like I was able to get into his mess for just a minute and open my eyes to what it was like to live that way. And like I said, I'm not saying you do that every time, all the time. But maybe there's somebody in your life that's a little bit messy, and God's asking you, he's tugging on you to do something about it. What about the bigger messes? What about poverty? What about hunger in Africa? What about the poverty-stricken people of Peru? What about orphans all across the world that don't have somebody to call mom or dad, or a place to call home, that live out of a backpack? Is it easier just to ignore these messes and just, get on with our little American dream life? And yes, we struggle and we complain about how the barista messed up our latte again, and how Burger King never puts enough sauce on their burgers. It's easier just to stay in our climate-controlled lives and just pretend like those messes, like that mess there, don't exist, because it's really overwhelming to think about doing something when there's too much to do. Right? But there's a smarter man than I am, Edmund Burke, that put it this way. He said, nobody made a greater mistake than he who did nothing because he could do only a little. So maybe I couldn't do anything great for that man that was on the side of the road, or for the 100 others that were sitting around. And maybe I couldn't change his life, but I could do a little bit. And so I guess I was just willing to do a little bit. Now let's take it back to Matthew. He's in a tax collector booth. He's been rejected his whole adult life. He doesn't fit in with the Jews. They hate him. They detest him. And he doesn't fit in with the Romans. They hate the Jews. So he's alone, and he's just resorted to this fact that, well, at least I'm making money and I can survive here alone in my tax collector booth, when one day his world gets rocked when a man named Jesus walks by. Take a look at this clip.
We live in the same world, Matthew.
Next.
Besides, what else are you going to do with a mind like yours?
Matthew. Matthew, son of Alphaeus.
Yes.
Follow me.
Me?
Yes, you.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. What are you doing?
You want me to join you?
Keep moving, street preacher.
Do you have any idea what this guy's done? Do you even know him?
Yes.
Listen, I said to... What are you doing? Where do you think you're going?
Guys, let me go.
Have you lost your mind? You have money. Quintus protects you. No Jew lives as good as you. You're gonna throw it all away.
Yes.
I don't get it.
You didn't get it when I chose you either.
But this is different. I'm not a tax collector.
Get used to different. I'm glad we passed by your booth today, Matthew.
Yes.
Shall we? We have a celebration to prepare for.
You will regret this, Matthew.
What's the tablet for?
I grabbed it without thinking. You can put it back.
No, keep it. You may yet find use for it.
Where are we going?
A dinner party.
I'm not welcome at dinner parties.
Well, that's not going to be a problem tonight. You're the host.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Did you catch that? You just might yet have use for it with that little notepad. What do you think you might be taking down? Some gospel? That's right. I love it. So that night, Jesus goes to Matthew's house and has dinner with sinners, tax collectors, and the Pharisees. Say, what is your teacher thinking, dining with sinners and tax collectors? We see this in Matthew 9 through 13. And that's when Jesus says, those who are well have no need of a physician. I desire mercy, not sacrifice. I came not to call the righteous, but the sinners. So what we see here is now Matthew's not the one getting attacked. It's who? It's Jesus. Now because Jesus is willing to allow this messy person into his life, he's the one getting attacked. And he's willing to take the attacks. Jesus, why do you dine with this guy? Don't you understand that the Jews won't respect you if you associate yourself with tax collectors? You could see that coming from Peter in the video. And Jesus is saying, you know what? These verbal attacks are worth getting a little bit messy. That he is worth getting a little bit messy for. So the point is, Jesus wasn't afraid to get messy. And the challenges are you. Jesus wasn't afraid to get messy relationally. Are we? Are you afraid to let that person in your life because it might cost you a little bit of energy or time or money? Maybe it'll cost you your reputation. Maybe you'll get attacked. Maybe people will ask, what are you thinking associating with them? Is it worth it? Maybe you're afraid because you might get into that relationship and feel like you can't get out of it. Like, oh, what if I start helping that person and then I can't, I don't want to finish and then I'm stuck with him in my life. I would encourage you with this. Don't allow fear of what could happen stop you from having faith in what could happen. Don't allow fear, and this can apply to anything, whether it's a relationship or a step God's asking you to take, something the Holy Spirit is pulling on you to do. Don't allow fear of what could happen stop you from having faith in what could happen. So what does that look like right now? What does it look like for all of us? We have a really good opportunity coming up here in a couple weeks. It's Easter, right? It's the greatest news ever been told. It's going to be told on Easter 4 times. 4 opportunities. Yeah, but Pastor Mindy, we got matching outfits for my family. If I invite that person, they're not going to match in the cute picture I'm planning to put on Facebook. It's not good. And then I had to talk to them, and then I had to go to lunch with them, and it messes up my perfect little pastel Easter. It does, doesn't it? Maybe it's allowing a foster child into your home, not knowing what's going to happen. Maybe it's going on a mission trip and going to see the mess in some other countries and the way people live and having your world rocked forever. I will never forget a woman cooking fish over a fire saying this was her last meal for her and her daughter. And she was trusting God for the next one. You don't shake that kind of stuff. Maybe it's donating to a mission of some other mission group that goes out and helps some of these messes in the world. Maybe it's volunteering. Maybe it's leading a small group, being willing to allow yourself in a circle with people that have mess in their lives and being invested in that mess with them. Maybe God's calling you to lead a group, or maybe he's calling you to be a part of a group, and on the flip side, allowing somebody else to see your mess. Man, you look good on Sunday, don't you? But you know all the kind of mess that's going on in your life, and you just are afraid to step into that circle because they might find out that you're not perfect. There's all kind of baggage in your life. I'm going to welcome up Kristen Groff. Where you at? There she is. Give her a hand. She's going to come up and share her testimony. Hand me that mic. It's behind you. And she is so comfortable on stage in front of lots and lots of people. Now, I'm so proud of her for getting up, and I can't wait for you to hear what she has to say. So let your heart roll, okay?
All right. Well, first of all, I'm totally not comfortable whatsoever speaking in front of people. At first, Alicia Kidd asked me to share my story, and when she came to me and asked me if she had a question for me, I was like, oh my gosh, she's going to try and set me up on a date. It's all right, Grandma. She didn't. And I was like, whew, dodged a bullet on that one. And then I was like, wait, now I have to stand up in front of you all. So excuse the shakes and the tears that may come. But as Mindy said, my name is Kristen. Some of you may know me as Aisha. True story. I have a daughter and a small zoo at my house. And just a little bit of background on me, I come from a very, very small town. So trust me, Pataskala is a booming metropolis. So my dad grew up, I was a little wallflower for him. So for me to do this, to stand up in front of people, is a testimony in itself. Because in high school, I was riddled with fear and anxiety, and I let that come into my adulthood. I will say probably until I walked through these doors at Impact City. In 2015, my life completely exploded, and not in the best way. Like the eruption, I ended up going through a divorce, and I never knew or understood why I went through it or how I was going to get through it, but I did. All because of a close chance encounter with Miss Alicia Kidd in Pataskala Kroger on a day when I was probably at my worst. Just wanted to get in and out, and there she was, around the corner. Come on to Refit. I've been following her on Facebook for a while. And then from an invitation to Refit came, come to church. I walked through those doors and I've never left. That's not the miraculous thing is. The miraculous thing is Kristen lives in her comfort zone. I don't get outside of my little box. It's actually probably smaller than this little box up here. So I decided that I was going to start teaching. And I teach because those little kids are not going to ask me who the 12 disciples are. We just play Simon Says and watch videos, and we're good. Fast forward that, I now become part of the core team for Kids City. Thankfully, I still did not have to stand up here. But God kept saying, Kristen, there's something bigger for you. And you need to trust me. You need to step out of that comfort zone. I finally did, and I started joining small groups. Last semester, I joined the Freedom Group, and God was really, I felt disconnected. But at the same time, he said, keep going, keep going, keep going. And so I did. And by the end of that semester, God goes, you're going to lead a group. I was like, what? He was talking to me. I stepped out in faith, and now I am leading a group of 9 extraordinary women who are my dearest and closest friends. Plug, we're on Tuesday nights. We still have room. I move around any type of furniture in my house to make room. So, doors open. Sorry, Bob, my group is still better than yours. I love Jeremiah's laugh too. I swear, Mindy, you wrote this for me, this sermon today, because I had a very messy life. Like, I was so broken. I was so going through those valleys. And I didn't want to leave. I would sit in the back, but I followed him. And just recently, I was given an opportunity to apply for a position with a new company. Out of over 100 applicants, I was narrowed down to 50. From there, I was selected for 10 to interview, and then down to 2 people. I got that job, and I was so ecstatic. And then I got the offer letter, and it was a pay cut. I'm like, God, I know I can do this. I can make it work. I'll figure it out, because I trust you. Within a week of accepting that job, I got a call back from HR and said, hey, Kristen, I got some good news. I'm like, well, I got the job. What could be any better than this? And she goes, so we've just decided to kind of reevaluate your position, and we're upping your offer letter. So I went from taking like 3 steps back to now making what I needed to make to still cover everything. And that doesn't happen with this company. Like, I don't know that I've ever heard of that happening. And God has just blessed me and my daughter so much because I've stepped out of that comfort zone. I've stepped out in faith. And so I'll just leave you with this verse because this struck me. I actually had this written down when I was doing a devotional just a week before, which is from Matthew. Matthew 17:20 is, truly I tell you, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, nothing will be impossible for you. So if anything, just remember, all we have to do is have faith as small as a mustard seed. And that's it.
So thankful that she's willing to step out of her comfort zone one more time and come up here and share that with you guys, because I know without a doubt that something she said was for some of you out here, or maybe somebody that's watching online. So I want to close by showing you one more scripture. It's in John 13:12 through 15. They're at the Last Supper. So Jesus had called Matthew. They did ministry together for several years. And then it comes time that Jesus knows it's about time to hang on a cross. And he has one more dinner with his disciples. And in this dinner, he doesn't set up his earthly kingdom. He doesn't put on a crown. He puts a towel around his waist and grabs a bowl of water. And he washes their feet. He washes Matthew, the sinner, the tax collector's feet. And then he says, do you understand what I have done to you? You call me teacher and Lord, and you are right, for so I am. If I then, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. For I have given you an example that you also should do just as I have done to you. As Jesus was cleaning Matthew's feet, Matthew was getting clean, and Jesus was getting what? Dirty, messy. He allowed their mess onto his hands. And I think that is not only an example for us to follow, but a symbol of what was about to come, where he was about to allow all the mess of the entire world to be laid upon his shoulders. He was the only clean one. And he allowed all the mess upon himself so that we could be washed clean from our sins. I think it's pretty amazing. And he invites us into that relationship. And then he invites us to be that person that's willing to allow yourself to get a little messy with someone else. And Jesus took a big step that day when he invited Matthew out of the tax collector booth. But so did Matthew. You know, Jesus took a risk, but so did Matthew. Matthew could have said, no way, man. In fact, there's evidence that there were people that Jesus said, follow me, and they stayed behind. And they missed out. And Matthew could have said, I can't come out there. Do you know what they'll do to me? They'll never invite me to their house for dinner. They're never going to accept me into their circle. That guy just spit on me yesterday. You know, like, he could have stayed where it was safe. But he took a huge brave step out of the tax booth and into a circle of men. And maybe you don't feel so much like Jesus this morning as you do Matthew. Like you're the one with the mess. And the brave step that God's asking you to take is to allow somebody else into your mess with you, to allow yourself into a small group or a mentorship relationship or a friendship with somebody that can help see you for who you really are and love you for who you really are. And there's no relationship quite like that until you really experience what it's like to be fully known and fully loved. Man, you don't know freedom. And so I don't know what it is for you. I don't know what God's pulling on you to do, but I trust the Holy Spirit is doing a work. And I trust that his words and that testimony and the video, something has touched you today. So I just want to invite the worship team on up. And we're going to sing a song. And they're going to sing a song. I am going to turn my microphone off. And while they do, I'm just going to let you sit. You don't have to stand up. You don't have to try to read the lyrics on the screen. You can if you want. You can raise a hand if you want, but you don't have to. Just reflect on the message and the lyrics in the song and just get that one-on-one time with God. Because how many of you know we don't do that often enough? I'm just allowing you a couple minutes of one-on-one time with God where nobody's asking you to do anything but sit and be with him. Let's enjoy this.